All you need to do is collect the 3 legendary golden eggs, and you could become a billionaire. Yet this man actually dared to pour a drink over the egg's surface. Amazingly, the egg melted like chocolate. It was obvious this egg was a fake, the real one had been switched. The police immediately ordered every exit sealed off, and at that moment, a man slipped out. Hartley pushed through the crowd and rushed outside as well. But as he went through the next door, he got stuck and couldn't move. Meanwhile, the thief quickly put on a suit and tie, easily slipping past 2 officers. He thought he could make a clean getaway, but Officer Doss spotted him. The thief tossed a smoke bomb, using the chaos to escape, but Hartley caught sight of him. The two chased each other up the stairs. Though the thief was agile, Hartley blocked him after he slid under a table. The next second, the thief darted across scaffolding and got away. Furious, Hartley kept after him, but the thief ran into more police. He climbed up the scaffolding, swiftly unscrewing bolts to shake off an officer in an instant. Then he looped his jacket around a second officer, leaving him hanging, and pulled more bolts so another officer fell. He took them all down effortlessly. Finally, the entire scaffolding collapsed in a flash. Just when he thought he was safe, Hartley confronted him again, demanding the egg. But right then, Doss arrived. The thief kicked her gun away and thought he was free, until Hartley grabbed him and charged out the door. They nearly fell to their deaths, still struggling over the golden egg. The thief suddenly let go, dropping into a drainage pipe and slipping from the police's grasp. Seeing him getting away, Hartley leapt onto a nearby ladder, kicked off, and managed to land on the ground. He stood up right in front of the thief, but the thief jumped through a window, used a tarp to land softly. Hartley jumped after him, almost leaving a crater in the ground on impact. The thief then used his tie to trick someone into giving up a motorcycle and sped away. Hartley gave chase in a car but was hit and forced to watch the thief vanish. When the thief returned to his mansion, ready to admire the golden egg, Hartley's voice sounded behind him. A team of officers burst in, and Doss confiscated the egg. After catching the thief, Hartley placed the egg in his car. But after they shut the steel doors, a man in black had already taken the egg. The driver reminded him the trunk was still open. Hartley, puzzled, rushed back. Luckily, the egg was still inside. He looked around, seeing no sign of the mysterious man in black. The next day, police discovered something off about the egg, smashed it to pieces, and traced a massive sum of money to Hartley's account. Framed, Hartley desperately tried to explain, but Doss didn't believe him. Hartley was arrested and sent to a Russian prison, surrounded by steep cliffs and heavily guarded. What he didn't expect was that his cellmate would be none other than the thief. Booth. Talk about fate. But the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so they planned to escape together and hunt down the second egg. Booth started by stuffing soap into a spray can. After sealing it, he tossed it into a waste processor and turned up the heat. When they ducked into a corner, a huge explosion went off. Guards came running, trying to subdue them, but the two quickly took them down. Step 2. They used a stolen cafeteria keycard to open a massive steel door over a meter thick. While the guards were distracted on the phone, they slipped through. Step 3. They pulled a wedge stone, and an entire rock wall collapsed in seconds. Holy cow, breaking out seemed so easy. But below was a deadly drop. How could they escape? Clinging to the prison's outer wall, one wrong move would mean death. Suddenly, Booth slipped, but Hartley grabbed him just in time, saving his life. On the other side, a soldier was busy scrolling through his phone, looking at his favorite idol, unaware that 2 men were already sneaking up behind him. Without a word, Hartley headbutted the guard, knocking him out cold. Before they could even celebrate, they were spotted. Hartley stayed behind to cover, while Booth took off running, but the pilot noticed him. Booth stayed calm. He grabbed a handful of snow and, just as the pilot opened the door, hurled it right at his head, then lunged forward and pulled him down. At that moment, the enemy pulled out a rocket launcher, aimed directly at Hartley, and fired. In that split second, Hartley grabbed a rope and swung out of the way, barely escaping. Booth fired up the helicopter as police opened fire. Booth retaliated with heavy gunfire, forcing them into cover. Seeing the helicopter just ahead, Hartley sprinted with all his strength, leapt high, and managed to grab hold. But when he looked back, another rocket launcher was already locked on them. They tried to climb higher, but it was too late. The missile streaked toward them, but Hartley quickly swung open the steel door, letting the missile shoot through the fuselage and explode harmlessly against a snowy mountain. They survived by a hair's breadth. Next, they went after the second golden egg, which was in the hands of an arms dealer. The place was heavily guarded, but with the dealer's fingerprints, phone passcode, and facial recognition, they easily unlocked the vault door. Before they could grab the egg, a woman suddenly appeared. The very same mysterious woman who had swapped the egg before. Hartley pulled out handcuffs to arrest her, but the woman, the bishop, kicked off her heels, pulled out a hairpin, and charged in. Booth was no match, getting beaten down over and over. She flipped up one leg, smoothly snatching a long spear as a weapon. Hartley smashed a glass panel and grabbed a shield. Booth reached for a gun, only to come up empty-handed. The fight exploded. The bishop moved like a war goddess, even kicking Hartley clear across the room. Booth was tossed around like a rag doll. She effortlessly tied up two big, burly guards together, then used her long legs to knock them both out. But just as she picked up the egg, the arms dealer and his men arrived. Booth quickly tried to pin the blame on her, but the boss stepped forward and kissed the bishop's hand. Turns out they were in this together. Before Hartley and Booth could react, they were knocked unconscious from behind. Moments later, 2 buckets of icy water jolted them awake. The bishop demanded the location of the third golden egg. Booth refused to talk, so she pressed a stun gun against Hartley. When Booth still stayed silent, she cranked the voltage to the max and shocked Hartley right between the legs. Oh my god, just watching made you cringe in pain. The boss, growing impatient, grabbed Hartley by the throat, squeezing harder and harder. Seeing Hartley about to pass out, Booth finally gave up and revealed where the third egg was hidden. The 2 villains cheered, clinking glasses in celebration. But after one sip, the boss collapsed to the floor. The bishop casually took the second golden egg and strolled out. The boss suddenly stumbled to his feet, dazed, firing wildly, bang, bang, bang. But still groggy from the drug, he couldn't hit anything even at point-blank range. Instead, he accidentally shot open Hartley's handcuffs. Hartley seized the gun, knocking the boss out cold again. They hurried to escape, but when they opened the vault door above, the sight froze them in place. A raging bull was staring straight at Hartley. Booth quickly tried to retreat back into the vault, but the boss woke up and opened fire, forcing him to shut the door. The bull couldn't wait any longer. Hartley was ready to run, but Booth warned, "If you run, you're dead for sure." The raging bull charged forward, slamming into Hartley and sending him flying hundreds of feet. Then it set its sights on Booth, who ran for his life. The boss poked his head out, only to have the bull stomp right on him. Hartley and Booth quickly vaulted over the railing, finally escaping the bull's rampage. After that, they continued searching for the third golden egg, wandering in the tropical rainforest for 8 days and 7 nights without any luck. That's when Booth realized he'd been holding the map upside down. Hartley was furious, ready to rip the map in half, but the next moment, could this be where the treasure was hidden? They dug like madmen, and before long, a strange sight appeared. Was the treasure really here? They triggered a mechanism and, using all their strength, pried open a steel door, revealing a spiral staircase leading downward. Another iron door awaited, carved with an unusual design. Booth took out the watch his father had given him, placed it in the center, gave it a few twists, and the door swung open. Oh my god, inside was a vast treasure chamber packed with priceless relics. Even more surprising, there was a 1939 race car, only 3 exist in the world, worth at least $30 million. Booth suddenly noticed something, pried open an old wooden crate, and there it was, the third golden egg. It slipped from his hands and hit the ground, but luckily, it didn't break. At that moment, the bishop appeared, demanding he hand over the egg. But just then, Doss and her team smashed through the door. The bishop opened fire, and a fierce gunfight erupted. The police firepower was overwhelming. Booth fired up the rare race car, the bishop slammed the pedal, and the 3 of them sped off together. A roadblock appeared ahead, so they tossed a grenade and blasted through. Doss found an armored vehicle and gave chase like a madwoman. Hartley quickly ran out of ammo. Doss pulled alongside their car, ready to take them down. A cop raised his gun, but the bishop intercepted him, landing a flurry of punches, the last one knocking him out cold. In the chaos, Doss reached for the golden egg. In a desperate move, Hartley threw it to the bishop, but Doss caught a corner of it. They both pulled hard as Booth was knocked out by another officer. The bishop jerked the steering wheel, sending Doss's vehicle off course. Seeing an obstacle ahead, Doss slammed on the brakes. The egg flew out of the bag, but Booth leapt and caught it midair. Soon, they ran out of road. Hartley panicked, but the bishop floored the accelerator. The next second, they shot out over a waterfall, all 3 leaping into the plunge pool below. When Doss looked down, the water was calm, no trace of them. Moments later, the bishop crawled ashore. Seeing her so battered, Booth grinned, thinking he'd won. But then Hartley pulled out handcuffs, and the 2 kissed passionately. What was happening? Booth's mind reeled. It turned out they had been partners all along. The electric shock earlier had been just to win Booth's trust. And so, they secured the third golden egg and tied Booth to a tree. With all 3 eggs, they sold them to a wealthy collector, earning $300 million and living the high life. But soon after, an unexpected twist. Booth showed up, revealing that Doss had frozen all of Hartley's assets. Now broke, Hartley had no choice. The 3 decided to put the past behind them and work together again. Looks like another big heist is about to begin. That's the full story of the movie Red Notice. Here's my question for you. Among the 3 main actors, who's your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. See you next time.